about the New Hampshire Code Camp that's coming on this Saturday. If you go to the granitestateCodeCamp.org, I'll put that window in the chat window. Depending on the would recommend you can enter it. This topic is Azure Synapse. Azure Synapse is the analytical engine. Before we dive into the topic, a little bit about me. And my full name is Udaiappa Ramachandran. Shortly call me Udai. I work for a company called Akimina as a CTO, CSO, and I'm on Microsoft MVP. And I've been in this cloud space for more than a decade now, since the early days of Microsoft Azure. I built the SaaS platform in Microsoft Azure and Amazon. I do a little bit of work on Google, not much. We run this user group. That's the user group URL, meetup.com/UG. That's where you are all here. And that's my personal website. I just post what I'm doing, right, including one I'm doing today. Today's agenda, there's a lot of data platform in Microsoft Azure. Oftentimes it confuses even the expertise. When you start into the technology, you ask yourself, what is all this technology, right? So we're going to see the related technology called Data Factory and Data Bricks. And we directly dive into Synapse analytics. And then we will see how you can aggregate data from multiple data sources, how you can explore. I'm not going to demo the machine learning point of view, but I'll do everything else. And then the how you can secure the data. What did Microsoft offers to secure the data? And we will run demo as we go through. All right, Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is easy to use. But it is a data ETL tool, right? It's a cloud-based data integration service that helps to build some pipelines to export data from one source to other source. In a real-world scenario, we use it. We want some sample data from some live database. We export it to another database by masking it, and we use it. Or you have flat file system you want to export into some target data source, maybe a Cosmos DB or a SQL Server, you name it, any data source to any data source. This is an ETL tool, okay, extract, transform, and load type of tool, which is a cloud-based, more powerful. They out of the box, they provide 90 plus connectors. What will happen if you need the connector outside of it? It's very easy. You can export to a flat file system, and then you can export it your own way. They provide the pipelines, the GUI based, zero code. You don't need to write any code. Use the user interface to build the pipelines, data flows, and some power queries, like Power Platform queries. Right. So next thing, data bricks. So as the Data Factory is the ETL tool, it only does the ETL, right? But Data Bricks, it's more than ETL, but less than the Synapse. It's in between stack, right? So anything you do in a Synapse, you can also do it in a Data Bricks. But the tool does is it's a powerful data processing capabilities. It brings the machine learning and the real-time analytics. That's what the Synapse is, right? Synapse is mainly used for machine learning and real-time analytics, but this also you can do it. It is a managed service, meaning that Microsoft creates that services. It's a provisioned. You have to provision that, but you don't need to. It's not an infrastructure of the service. You need to take care of that computes, but Microsoft will take care of it, but you still need to provision that. And since it supports the machine learning, and you can use the notebooks, in the notebooks when you use Scala, Python, whatever in a SQL like syntax, and you can use all those things, but it is a little bit learning curve involved. It can be more expensive based on how you consume. That doesn't mean that Azure Synapse is going to be cheap, but it is, they're also expensive based on how you're going to design your system. But this Data Bricks is expensive than Data Factory. But again, Data Factory is an ETL tool. Data Bricks, you can solve everything that we are going to solve in Synapse. So now dive into Synapse, right? So what is a Synapse? If you look at it, in the far left side, we have a data, right? Everybody has a data. Every company has a data. Every person has a data, right? We have a data from the social, we have data from the work. Everybody has a data. Every device, every machine emits a data. On the right side, there is action. And in between is what Synapse sits in. Your data Action is automated, and in between is what Synapse sits in. So what is the descriptive analysis? If you take, that's on the vertical side of it, right? And take on the horizontal side of the middle tier, as the tier goes down, there's a 4 places: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. As you go down, the human input is reduced, right? So the descriptive analytics means what is happening in my business, right? What is going on? There is some sale going on. There is a customer is unsatisfied. Anything you call it as, right? Anything that related to your business. Now, why did this happen is a diagnosis. You want diagnostic, right? So how many people reporting the same problem? What is going on? Why it's happening? Why everybody reporting the same problem? Is a quality issue, or why the sales is not going through? Why the pipeline is low? Why it's happening? Our pipeline is high. Why it's happening, right? So you have a cool technology. There is a lot of things, right? Traction towards that. So the second thing is why it's happening. As you can see, the human input is more heavily involved when we talk about what happened, right? But why did it happen? Slightly reduce the human input because we have the data, we're looking at the data, right? So then predictive, what will happen, right? So things are happening today, but what is the continuous ratio, right? So which enables to answer, what will happen in future, maybe tomorrow. If you do this, what will happen? If you don't do this, what will happen? Like churning the customer, or maybe bringing a new customer, right? Or bring a more prospective. So we don't know that. That's where the next stage comes in, perspective. What should I do to do that? If it's going to happen a churn, what we can do to retain them? If it's going to have customer to be added to the pipeline, what we can do to convert them to convert from prospect to a customer, right? So those are the things is a prescriptive. What should I do to bring them? And then we make the decision, and then the action is executed either programmatically or manually. But in this case, most steps are programmatic. So as it Synapse analytics comes some predefined components, right? It is mix of multiple several stack of technologies. The main thing is Azure Synapse is nothing but the classic term of SQL Server Data Warehousing, also known as SQL Data Warehouse. That's a new name. Azure Synapse is a new name for the SQL Data Warehouse, but now it brings the machine learning and all those things into a picture. So they give a rename to Azure Synapse. So the core architecture is the data warehouse. The data warehouse comes with the 3 pool. I forgot to add one more. SQL, which is the SQL like the SQL Server syntax. You create a database and then work with it. That SQL comes with the dedicated and serverless. Who need the dedicated, right? There is a problem. If you use a dedicated, you have to spend money up front. So but they provide, you don't need a dedicated once you know what you're going to do, but in order to explore, you don't need a dedicated, right? So you can do a serverless. That's a default one. When you create a Synapse, they're always going to create a serverless pool, which is cheaper, $5, right? You will see it in the UI. Then the Spark comes into a picture, how you can, analyze the data, like the data preparation, data analysis, in how you want to do all those the big data natures, right? Analysis, prediction, all those things, how you want to run, which there is the Apache Spark pool. Then you can use with the language Python, SQL, and C#, some extent Scala, and so on. Okay, so it is a big data engine because you're going to store gigs and gigs and gigs of data over there. It is serverless. You are not managing any server. You dynamically scale the computes. If you need more computes, you scale up. If you need less, you scale down. So it is a serverless. You are not going to manage anything that the compute is offering to you. So data flow. So you're going to make a data flow from one source to other source, and then you analyze the data. And then if you need to a reporting point of view, then you're going to put the data into another external table or a physical table, maybe, right? We'll see that difference, how the data are mapped. The MapReduce technology is used here. And it is an ecosystem, works a nice integration with the Power BI, which is the end user, right? So your marketing or sales team want to see your Power BI report. They don't care about what's going on, how much the engineering effort put in, but they need the nice decision making or the report through the Power BI report. You can do that. It's also mixed with the Azure Machine Learning techniques. So here is the high level. So we saw all the components that are integrated, but this is the picture representation of those components. If you go from left to right, on the left, you have the on-premises data, and then you have cloud data, you have SaaS data, you have streaming data, you name it, anything you want. So you have a data from the left, right? And then they provide a studio, which is the no code. You go there and then you create a few things, or you can code over there. You don't need any machine. You can directly do everything on the studio. So you don't need to install any tools on your local desktop or the cloud computers, right? So they have a studio. That studio comes with the 4 different options. Data integration, how you want to do ETL, right? So you have a data source, which is in one type of format, which can be JSON or can be a CSV, you name it, any format, or can be a text, or can be a SQL data, or can be a Cosmos data, you name it. And that's the data integration comes in, and how you want to manage, right? So the manage come into different types of pool you want to create it. That's where the pool sitting underneath, and then monitoring. So you still need to monitor how things are performing. So performing good, performing worst. Are you highly provisioned? Are you under provisioned? There's a lot more things we need to worry about it over here. So all the monitoring comes into that. Then of course the security. So one key advantage of using Azure is the security. It not tightly, it's well integrated with your identity, right? So you are using Azure Active Directory. I want to give you access to some level. It's easy to control by using your Entra ID. So now they call it as the Entra ID. So it's easy to control. So it gives you that level of security. If you want to store the secrets or certificates or keys, you can still store it in the key vault, and then you can use the managed identity to read those data. So you run everything in a very secure. You cannot browse those keys or certificates or secrets from outside. So you can enable managed identity. So your services, in this case, for example, Synapse service can directly and securely access those key vault secrets, keys, and certificates when and where needed. Okay, and also gives you encryption. So at trust encryption, in-transit encryption. We will see what it is, but it gives you the option to encrypt. So by default, Microsoft, anything you write, it's encrypted. Period. Okay, so the at trust encryption is always there. Okay. I want to make sure that it's everything is going good here. The at trust encryption is always there. But you can add a custom encryption, meaning the double encryption. Okay, so at trust encryption is always there by using the Microsoft, but some reason you want to take a little bit more control or guardrail around that at trust encryption, you can bring your own key. So the encrypted data will be re-encrypted using your own key. It's called double encryption or the custom key based encryption. So that provides that level of security too. Next thing is analytics runtime, right? So now we have everything, but we need a compute to do that job, right? That's for the compute. So the compute comes in the SQL pools, the compute comes in the Spark pool, and then the Data Explorer pool. So the SQL, again, as we saw before, it comes with the 2 flavors, the dedicated and then the serverless. So based on your use cases, either you can use a dedicated or serverless mode, and then they all use the Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2, which is the huge storage that they provision in the ultra fast storage. That's where all the data stays in, and then they use a map reduce functionality to query the data in a parallel way. Okay, we will see it, and I put a link over there. So once this is done, on the right side you can see it. The data that you captured or processed or reviewed can again be piped into Azure Purview to make sure you are not sending that sensitive data, right, to anybody, right? So you want to cleanse the data. It does not contain the social security number when somebody looking at it, or maybe someone's salary. Then you can cleanse the data. Azure Purview will help you. Again, to make the decision and all those things, we can use the machine learning, and finally Power BI to present the data in a rich way. All right. So what are the capabilities, right? So we talked about the Azure, Synapse, but here are the some capabilities that you can look at it. This is the unified analytics platform. right? Because why it is unified? Because you bring any form of data and you can analyze it, right? You can merge the data. You can bring two different format and then merge them into one format. So it does not matter what format. So it is a unified analytics. And it's a serverless and dedicated option. It does provide us a serverless and dedicated option based on the dollar or amount of data or the functionality that you want to consume within the cloud. It is enterprise data warehouse. It's in the legacy term, so it was a SQL data warehouse. So it is a data warehouse. It built on data lake exploration. So you're going to, it uses the data lake generation 2 storage. So we're going to explore every data from there, and that's where it's going to write back to. So if you write any data, it uses the data lake. If you read any data, the data lake is the best way to get the high performance. But the analysis and everything happening on the data lake exploration only. It's a code-free, deeply integrated Apache Spark and SQL engines for machine learning and all the stuff. SQL engine to explore the data you can run, or you can, process the data and then write it back, whatever the SQL Server query capabilities, 100%. It is a SQL engine end of the day. It's a cloud native HTAP, meaning that, hybrid transactional analytical processing. It has a choice of language for you to use while in the studio, which is or maybe programmatically. But this demo we're going to see is everything using the studio. T-SQL, Python, or Scala, or Spark SQL. Some extent you can also use C#.NET. Well, integrates into artificial intelligence, that's a machine learning, other decision-making softwares, and of course the Power BI for the final report. And data security, either you encrypt the data at rest or in motion or in transit, or data security and how you can access it, right? So the role-based access, you have that mechanism out of the box when you sign up for the Azure account. All right, so now let's explore. So if you look at this diagram over here, we talk about the 3 runtimes, right? SQL, Apache Spark, and Data Explorer. Let's go and look at one at a time. So Synapse Analytics SQL pool. So you have to use one or other, or you can use all 3 together, or combination of 2. So it is your choice, right? So you can mix and match those things. If you need a full machine learning, of course, you're going to use the Spark pool, but other things you can use the SQL pool. And if you only want to explore the data from the multiple data sources, then you can use the Data Explorer pool. Or you can mix all 3 together and then do everything you want, right? But let's understand what is SQL pool. It comes with the 2 flavors, as we said before, serverless and dedicated. The dedicated does everything that serverless does, okay? But the dedicated is provisioned resource, meaning that you have to pre-provision that. So you're paying for it. Either you use it or lose it, you're paying for it. There is a way to pass it. You can pass it if you're not using it. But again, if you pass it, somebody runs the query, it's going to be a problem. You're going to get an error, right? So, but if you are in a prototyping stage, you want to explore, then you can pass it. But otherwise, you're going to provision that. So, what is the key advantage of serverless SQL, right? So, query data from ADLS Gen 2 directly. You directly call. It doesn't matter what format it is, and then you bring the data in a structured format. It uses the T-SQL to query any format. For example, CSV. The Parquet is the most favorite, smallest, fastest format. Nowadays, the big data uses it. You may often hear this format everywhere, Parquet, which is the first time that once I started exploring last couple of months, that's the time I learned that's the format the big data uses it, which simplifies your file size and so on. When compared with the CSV, JSON, and other notations. For serverless pool, you don't need to have any infrastructure provisioned. It uses the Polybase techniques to connect and bring the copy of the data to the compute that is going to run the queries, right? So the way that it runs, you send to the query, which call it as a controller, or orchestrator, the controller takes it and patches that query to the computes, right? But serverless have a limited computes, say 3, and it is going to send all those queries to those 3 parallelly, and then gathering back the result and then bringing it back. But the dedicated can go up to 60 computes at the same time. So once you start controller, you're asking something to the controller. Controller takes your request in the query format and then it's dispatching to the 60 computes at the same time. And since everything is stored in a file data format, it's going to go and find all the data, aggregate it, come back in the same time. So when to use the serverless pool, it's a quick ad hoc queries, or you do some prototype, or maybe in a real-time environment, you don't have, you don't need ultra fast, you can have some latency, then you can pretty much use it. It's a logical data value of transform data in a lake, which is the data lake. The dedicated SQL pool, everything is server SQL, but this time you are setting up the infrastructure in advance. And again, it's a massive parallel processing, up to 60 compute can process same time. So, you're going to ask for it. If you have 60 computes, then it's going to use all 60 computes. You put 3 computes, it's going to use only 3 computes. So you give that configuration, how many computes you want and how you want every computer to be. But all the data stored in the data lake, Gen 2, right? So here is the Synapse SQL architecture. Okay, there's no difference between SQL pool versus the serverless versus the dedicated, but they follow the same architecture, but only the compute capacity is lower or higher. So serverless have a limited capacity, but dedicated, you say that. You can say, whatever the capacity you want to use it, but it can patch the parallel query up to 60 computes at any given time. Okay, so your application now connecting to the node, which is the control node, and then it uses the MPP, which is a massively parallel processing engine. The control node now knows what you're looking for. It's going to patch all the queries to all the computes, which can go 60 computes at a time. Then they're going to look for the data on the storage and bring back to your node, and then your application receives the data. If you need a more reading of how the internally works, you can obviously, you will have the link to this and you can read more about it. So the next pool is Spark pool, right? It is a provisioned resource, just like the dedicated one. It is also a provisioned resource. So you will have to come back and create it. The minimum of 3 pool you need to create. I think the dedicated you can 2. We will see it in a minute, but the Spark you need to create at least 3. Okay, and then you can expand, and then you can select the size. You want a compute optimized or storage optimized. You can do all those things. It brings the machine learning with the MLib library. It's a data engineering, data science, and data preparation with all these things, right? So data engineering, you look at the data, if the data is given to you and you look at the data and given the problem, you want a solution, you keep looking at the data until you want it. That you use the Python or Spark SQL or C# or Scala. That's why it comes in the category of data engineering and data preparation, and the data science using the Python component. And then the streaming the data, and then Spark notebooks. You don't need to, you don't need to install anything. You just go there, open it up, and then start running the Python script or script on the browser. It's fantastic. It brings output. You can analyze and visualize whatever you want to do. The next, this is the high-level architecture of the Synapse Spark overview. So you have the Spark SQL, Spark MLib graphics for the computation. It's patched into the Spark core engine, and then it has the yarn. Yarn stands for yet another resource negotiator. It's going to go and find where it's supposed to go and take the data. But the difference here is the classic MapReduce techniques. It goes read, write, then read, write, right? It's a sequential. But the Spark MapReduce is read, write happening at the same time across your clusters that you provided. So there is a 2 minutes, I believe, up to 5 minutes for 60 node cluster. If you have more 2 minutes for 60 node cluster, 5 minutes for more than 60 node cluster. It can even exceed more than 60 nodes. But in the dedicated pool, you can the same time it goes up to 60 nodes. Here it can go more than 60 nodes to do that MapReduce. The third pool we are talking about here is the Data Explorer pool, which is it's a unified experience, real-time insight, scalability, security, all the default things come into it. High performance, real-time ingestion, time series analysis, and you can also do a machine learning. But this is in a preview state. This uses the kind of the data factory mechanism to bring the data and then you analyze it, right? As I said before, you can mix and match things over here. So here is the high-level architecture. I provide the link in the bottom where you can learn more about it. In the left-hand side, you have a Spark, Data Factory, apps via APIs, plugin. There's a lot more data source, right? And then the middle box is the matter, data management, and then the SST engine, that's the matter, right? And you ingest the data. Then you start consuming the data from the far right. The far right, your apps, you use the query control commands to the engine directly and start looking at from the APIs or from the Power BI, or you run some Jupyter notebooks, and so on. But in our case, we will use a notebook or SQL-like queries. And then you can persist the data back to a SQL or Cosmos DB, or some extent you can even send that back to Azure Monitoring, or you can enable Azure Monitoring to log what's going on in the Data Explorer. Okay, so that's the high-level architecture. Again, it's not changing one versus the other, right? So one side is the data source. The middle size is the data processing or analyzing or understanding or machine learning or whatever, the data engineering job. And then third may be persisting if you need it. And fourth is the reporting. It's always a 4 parts. So when they use Azure, so we saw all the pools, how the pools, nothing but computes, right? So computes now when to use this, like, so if you have large scale data warehousing, that's where you're going to use. You have a small amount of data, for example, I don't know this example makes sense. You want to display the developers, the daily task. You probably don't need the default software dev apps or whatever the tool you use. They are much more efficient to provide the data. But once you come into this venue, it's going to cost a lot of money. So if you have large scale data warehousing, that's the time you're going to look at it. There's massive data, you can run through it, then that's the time you're going to look at this stuff and then bring all the data back here, run all those things. So very advanced analytics, real time, so what's the real time meaning is, if you run the query against the OLTP database, right? Sorry, OLTP, online transaction processing, right? So you have a database which takes a read and write. If you're trying to run the report on that database, obviously the database is going to be slow or dead, right? Or you may have to provision the highly compute, and it will be hard to control how much power or you want to give for this particular query. It's always going to be a problem when you're trying to do analytics on OLTP database. So that's where this comes into a picture. You can offload the data to a Synapse. Now you can query on a Synapse data store as the data inserted into the real database. For example, in the example that we're going to see, we have Cosmos DB. You can have a real-time data insert is going on or read-write is going on. But at the same time, we create a link to Azure Synapse. The data is, as you insert the data moved in some latencies. When I say real time, it's not like there will be some millisecond latencies, but obviously milliseconds to seconds to maybe even minutes latency are acceptable, and they appear to be a real time, right? So they just move, and you query against the different database for OLAP, right? That's analytical processing. So you differentiate that. So that's why your users who is coming into your database, they don't have a slowness or high responsive with low latency. For example, e-commerce systems, it's happening on one side, the other side, that data is linked to Synapse, and Synapse, you can query for the analytic process, what is going on, how many orders in the last 1 minute, how many orders complete in the last 5 minutes, all those things you can do a real time on the Synapse analytics. But the same data, but it moved to a Synapse on a live transaction. Data integration, you can bring mix and match and integrate analytics part of your data. So here is there is another thing called Synapse Private Hub. Okay, if you go to the Azure portal, you're trying to create this service, you will see a Synapse Analytics and in the Synapse Analytics Private Hub. So what it is, right? Synapse Private Hub is a Synapse Analytics, but for on-premises. In a high-level terminology, that's for on-premises. That's it. So, and I classified over here access, public access over the internet. The Synapse is private access over the private connection. Okay. In security, data is encrypted at rest because it's in the cloud. In cloud, everything is at rest encryption enabled. You have no way to disable that. when the cloud providers will do at-rest encryption. But all the consumer like us, you and me can do is we can bring another key. Hey, I'm not going to trust Microsoft. I still want to know what if someone hack into the Microsoft data center, they took the keys and then the data, right? But I want to hold the responsibility for the encryption. Then you can bring custom keys, and that's the time they go to a double encryption. So that's happening at rest. That's all happening on the address. And the data never leaves the network. So that data stays there, and then we're going to directly query the data and bring it to analytics power. Compliances, Microsoft provides variety of data compliances, but on-premises stick to their data regulations. In the use cases, general purpose data analytics and any cloud use case, you would bring it in, but that's for the on-premises network and other things. You have very private data. You don't want, you're paranoid about cloud. You don't want to give it outside of the network. That's the time you're going to use the private app. All right. Any questions so far before we dive into some use case?
Yes, we have one question so far. The question is, what's the optimum data size to start considering Synapse?
I would say, it's a very good question. The size, I would, would give over 100 gig in my definition, but say again, the 100 gig of multiple different data is different than 100 gigs of same data, right? It's an aggregation of how many data sources are coming in. I don't think there is a real answer to that. So you have to run it. So what tool you use today, how much you spend, how much you're happy about, how you happy about it. Are you getting everything? So you need to do the task. If you're not getting that level, then you obviously, say for example, my latency takes like every 1 day latency, end of the day, only this runs the report because my data is in a OLTP. I can query it on time. So I wait until the 5 o'clock. Then I do some processing later that day, and then it emits the report 4 o'clock in the morning. And then next day, my CS comes in and sees the data, or team comes in, sees the data, right? That's a one level of use case. You see it, how much real time you want. In the second real time, you have a real time now, but there's some latencies, right? So you got to run all these factors. Your latencies, how much data you want, how many data sources you aggregate, what is the prediction you're expecting. Like what is, you're going to start with a problem statement, and the problem statement is going to contain all these questions: the real-time latency, how much data you want, how many data sources you are there, what is your, do you need to run some machine learning? So do you need a data scientist, or you have the data that does not involve any data scientist? They don't need to model anything. Right? If you take e-commerce, you might find a lot of data models, but it's still good to have the data scientist, right, to do some sort of prediction. But they do out of the box sort of prediction models, but you still want to customize your own. So that's you're going to do all those exercises. So in this example that I'm putting on the screen right now, I don't need any data scientist because I'm not going to do any prediction and so on. But all I need is the report, right? Now I come into a system. I want to see, me as a user come into a system, how I interact with the system. So me as a user staying in one database, and how my interaction stays in the other side, how my social how I interact with the system stays in one system, how I socially contributed stays in another system, and then the content itself, the context itself stays in another system. So that's what we're going to see. But again, answer to your question, those questions needs to be answered, but there is no one solid answer. If you are happy with it, go with it. But if not, you need to do all these exercises. On top of that, you need to estimate how much it's going to cost you. What is your solution today? It's say $1,000 you spend versus you going to a $10,000. So the budgeting, all those coming into a picture. But it is a good question, but there is no one single answer until you go through all the list. But that's why I put this use case. Propose a solution for ABC company to build a real-time analytics using various data sources, such as Cosmos DB, log analytics, SharePoint list items, and how we can achieve this, right? So before we explore the answer, let's see what is Azure Synapse and how we can do all those things, how it's integrated with the multiple data sources. Then we will come back and brainstorm how we can solve this problem. Is that answers your question? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. So I guess you probably wouldn't use it for very simple little data, but as you get more data, the answer really depends.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, in cloud, everything to start very simple, but you know, even before you realize how expensive it is, and you will be in an expensive slot. It looks very simple, free for learning, and you're excited. You start with it, and this moment you start consuming, your bill goes like multiple of times. That's crazily increases it. Anyway, so let's explore this. So how to create Azure Synapse, right? So you go here, create a resource, right? It is part of the analytics. So you're going to look at the analytics here. Analytics. Okay. So whatever we talked about, it is there. Data analytics, data bricks, data lake. Nobody uses the Gen 1 and everybody uses the Gen 2, and then the machine learning, event hub. These all comes under the part. We're going to look at the Azure Synapse Analytics. And you can also type from here, Azure Synapse. You will get it over here. Okay. I have something created, but I will create it for you guys. But then everything you create here will take a time. So I'm not going to wait until that creation is complete. So I went ahead yesterday. I created it. I've been creating since yesterday because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I need to make sure everything is correct for this demo. I tried my best. So you give a new user group. So I'm going to say RG dash, Synapse by demo. Okay. And this is called a managed resource group. So you can have another resource group that manage for the hidden resources. I don't know why they ask, but they want to make sure certain resource you don't accidentally try to delete. So they put this as a hidden resource on a different resource group. But when you want to delete, you are not going to delete this resource group. If you're trying to do that, you will never have a successfully deleting the options. You will end up still paying money. So you will have to delete this, your main resource group. Okay. So you go back home, you start playing with it. Don't delete the managed resource group. Always delete this resource group. That will take care of deleting this resource group. Okay. Now we need a workspace. This is called the data warehousing. So you can call data warehouse. I'm going to say Nashua demo. Okay, something like that. Then I pick a region. I'm from East US 2, so I pick the East US 2. I'm sure most of you from East US 2. And then you can do a subscription. This is the DLS Data Lake Storage Gen 2, right? This is called the storage account. Again, DLS Gen 2 is ultra fast. Well, when you look at, if you're familiar with the Azure storage, they will look similar. Okay. I mean, in terms of exploring and everything will look similar, but this has the high throughput attached to it, read rate. So I would say new for now, I'm going to say DLS, it's a data lake storage, right? So I'm going to say Nashua demo. Okay. And this is called the file system name. You just have to create one file system name. If you are familiar with the Azure storage, then it is nothing but a container. Okay, it is a container, but they call it as a file system name. So you can say file system container, okay, whatever you want to call it. Or you can call anything you want, my documents, or you have multiple, sources. You can say this is my log analytics container. This is the Cosmos. You can name it, just a name, but it always makes sense to give a meaningful name. So when we are not in future, somebody look at it and they understand them by looking at the name what it is. So let's documentation effort. So you go next, and you have to give a password because, as I said before, this is a SQL data warehousing. So it is a SQL engine. So we need to give a username and then the password. I just do some password over here, and then to it. And you can enable this. You only want an Entra ID or use on the local and the Microsoft Entra ID. The local and Microsoft Entra ID, meaning that if you are familiar with the SQL Server, it is a SQL authentication plus the Windows authentication. This one is just a Windows authentication, but we are in the cloud. We can use the term Windows. So it is an Entra ID. In previous name is called Azure Active Directory logins. Okay. And Now, double encryption. This is what we are talking about. So we are going to cover a lot of things while going through this. Double encryption. So once you enable this, you need to provide the secret value. So you need to create a key called a secret. From there, you can create a key. That key must have a length of 2048, or another thing is the 3062. Okay, it's a multiple of 1024. So it should be anywhere between 2048 and 3062. You go to key vault and then create a key in cipher length of 2048 to 2062 in between. And then you select the key and do that. Or just leave it Microsoft addressed encryption. As I said before, you don't trust the Microsoft, you can bring it. And here you can also bring HSM. HSM stands for Hardware Security Module. So if you have a hardware-based secure key system living on your on-premises server, you want to bring that key, which is highly, highly secure. Who will use this type of mechanism? Banks. If you take a banks, when the bank goes to online, they always bring the HSM keys over there. They don't trust the Microsoft generated keys or cloud provider generated keys, in other words, because that key comes from there to the cloud and then they use that key. But someone takes the database from Microsoft Data Center, now they can't do anything with it because they need that key and hash. We will disable it, but that's the concept over there. And then networking, you can do a managed network, but if you disable, meaning that you can go through a public internet directly, just like how you're going to see the demo. You open the browser, you navigate it, you play with it, or you connect from your on-prem computer or from your laptop, right? I will show you how it works. But once you put an enable virtual network, and you need to go through all the virtual network. We have a topics we talked in the past. I'm not going to dive into it, but probably you know what it is. So that's a secure. You can again bring it in a private network now, those things. And here we make it all connection to all IP address allowed because we're going to demo it. So we don't want to restrict anywhere. We don't want to fail any demo. So you can do that. But if you already experienced developer or you want to explore it, you can disable all the options. Again, you can also turn off all the options later stage as well. And now they always force the TLS 1.2 because we are now in TLS 1.3. So they will never let you go back to 1.1 or the classic system. They have that. And then tag, just write your own classification and then review and create. It will create it or will create it. But as you see here, one thing I forgot to notice is it's always create the serverless pool, which is $5 per terabyte. Okay, that's all you can pay. So it's the right option to explore. All right, while it's running, let's go and explore this one over here. I have the POC and I create the Azure Synapse, right? If you look at it over here, I don't have to walk through the other options. Let's go specific to the Synapse. It's analytics pools. We talked about it, right? So you can create a SQL pool. We create it. We will show you how you can create. You can come here. You can create a new. There is a studio. You can go and create it. Similarly, Parks pool. You can create it. And then Data Explorer. So, it's just to understand if you want to create this over here, you click a new, and then you give the name on it. And then you give the cost, right? So look at this cost. How it's going to change. It's not saying. It's supposed to display the pricing and what is going on, but it is crazy. This will come like it's still loading, I guess. It's not displaying, but there is a defect, I believe. But and then you create it, so it's technically telling you performance level, data values, cost in a number of IU throughputs you want it. And you can increase, decrease. The minimum is going to be 1 point something per hour, which is this layer, 100 C, okay? And then you complete it, and use existing data, and then you set the correlation. Same, if you guys know a little bit SQL Server, those are the SQL settings because it is a SQL Server end of the day. And then tag, and then review and create. You want to skip that option. And if you want you can create another serverless pool. There's only one serverless pool that comes with that, okay? That's why you don't see that option over here. When you switch to a new, you don't see that option because there's only one serverless pool is allowed. But you can create as many as dedicated pool. Now the Spark pools, so you can create it, go to a new, and then you say the name, and then now you can give, just put some random name here, and then you can select the compute power you want. And then you enable disable auto scale. If you want to be very careful, sometimes you bring a sample data. They have a lot of sample data. Some sample data may need like a 1720 computes. You don't want to accidentally run into that problem, so you can disable that, right? So without you noticing, right? I ran a sample that says it can run. And then you see the error message, it was saying you need like a 17 computes, but luckily I disabled it. So if not, what would happen is it should be running. Now I'm paying for 17 computes, so whatever the price is going to calculate over here. So that's a one way that you can disable it, auto scale. Or, if you know what you're doing, then you can enable it. Otherwise, I would, if you, in your experimental stage, I would disable it, and then you see the error, then you come back, review, and then run the query again, and you go from there on. All right, next, additional settings. You see, again, these are the languages supported. I still don't see the .NET is displaying, but I'm not sure how some people seeing it .NET. Anyway, but you complete it, and tags and review complete, it should be good to go. Then you create the Spark. Spark. Okay, so if you look at it, my already created Spark, I call it as the Apache's Spark pool, aka POC is my root name. And then if we go back to the scale settings, and I can see everything that I created. See that I disabled because I want to be very careful when I want. Oh, I did say auto scale enabled. That's a bad idea. But we will leave it for now. We'll disable it. Okay, so now we talked about creating the Data Explorer. So similarly, Data Explorer, so you just to go click New, and then it's going to ask you to walk through screen. I'm going to give a name, and then I get storage optimized or compute optimized. Storage optimized. Now you want to have the storage compute optimized. You have a lot of processing. You have less storage, but you have a lot of algorithm going on, or some sort of masking, whatever going on. You know the difference. I say compute optimized, so I get a local choice. If I say storage optimized, then this gets a slightly weird size. Then you can pick it, and then you go next one. Optimized to scale. Minimum, maximum. They always ask you to have it, and you can check the price and whatever it is, and then you provide the tag and complete it. We went with whatever the default is. Okay, all right. So now we talked about the SQL pool, Apache Spark, Data Explorer pool, and then encryption. You obviously know that we already gone through it, and identity is the one how you enable secure connection with any of the service that you want to work with. For example, you want to work with the Cosmos DB without providing the credentials, then you enable the identity, and then use the managed services. As soon as you, this only supports a user-assigned identity. So you create a user-assigned managed identity, and then you give access to that identity, all the services, then you use it programmatically to connect all the system. But in our demo, we're going to use all the subsystem to use the keys. Private endpoint, you don't want to expose whatever the properties is displayed over here on the overview blade, right? You don't want to expose. So this is publicly exposed, right? So if you go browse, you may not get access. You will not get access, not you may not, but you're still exposing that. But putting on the private endpoint, those are not exposed. They will go through the Microsoft pipeline to query that system. As soon as you say that, it's going to translate that to a local address, and then you can look at it. So you won't even see access denied error, or you don't even see the DNS is being hit by bringing the private network. Okay, so I think we looked at it, auditing, so other stuffs are default. But now, before we dive into Studio, this is where we can do all the work. Let's look at it, what is over here, right? So we have the data lake storage that we created, TLS, POC, and then says the data I believe factory service, I don't know, TFS, code.windows.net, and then I have the container, that's my initial container. So why you need that initial container? As you add a few things to the pool, right? That needs some metadata to be written. That's the container it's used by. The container that you provide while creating the storage is used to store the metadata about the pools that you're going to create. Okay, and you can use the same container to store your own data, or you can create a new container and then use that container to store the data. It's up to you, but you create that container to store systems metadata. All right, so this gives my enter admin is this, so that's how I'm going to connect from my machine if I want to. That's my SQL admin. Remember, we give two mode access enabled, and it gives a dedicated pool. That's the connections. That's the server name for dedicated. This is server name for serverless, and that's the server name someone want to look at the development endpoint. You play with it a little bit. You can do that. So, okay, the next thing is to go open the Azure Synapse Studio, right? That's where you're going to do all the work. So remember, in our diagram over here, we talked about the diagram, everything's under the umbrella of, Studio, right? So we're going to launch the Studio. Oh, no. One click, everything messed up. Okay, that's a Studio. So if you look at the Studio, it has the multiple options. You can, the home screen is a very important screen. If you are new to this, I know, how to explore it. The data is where you're going to see all the data, how you connect. I have an explored connection. I have the SQL database. I have a link to service with the block storage, Cosmos DB, and the, ADL S2, and then the integration data sets that I created through these services. And develop is what you're going to see all the script you run, you can save it, and it will store over there. Okay, anything that you create, you publish, it will appear part of the developer. Integrate is again the data factory. We talked about it, right? The similar thing. Then you can create a pipeline to integrate the data. While integration, you can cleanse the data. You can mask it. You can do anything you want, or column name it, or change the data types to it. You can do anything, but integrate technically the ETL. Monitor, you can monitor here how your things has been performing. For example, SQL request, how many SQL requests you've been running, and how this cost, right? So duration 3 seconds, data processed, how much data it's processed, everything. You can look at it. So for example, I'm looking at a top 100 query, and it processes in a 10 MB, 0 seconds, or maybe take this one, right? It takes a 36 seconds, and you optimize the query to bring it back to the acceptable performance. So sometimes you can write a bad query to increase the cost, right? It's a typical tuning is involved here. The SQL tuning is applicable, everything over here. If you run a KQL request, which is what the Data Explorer supports, you can see it what it is, and in all those things. We have the SQL Apache Spark pool, so we can look at it. Right now it's stopped because we have the pause options and not in used for 20 minutes. So it pauses it, so we are not losing the money. It's the same capabilities available in SQL as well. If you don't use it, you can pause it. But it's very good option while prototyping it. Okay, and then all the pipeline runs, and then the trigger runs. You can see everything over here. The monitor, technically, you're monitoring what is going on over here. Okay, so you can see it, online. So that's typical monitoring. Integrate, we called it. So now the manage, right? So manage, again, it's an alternative way of creating the pools, right? So if you go back to the previous screen that we walked through, the data warehouse AKPOC, we have the way to create a SQL pool, Data Explorer, same thing, same error. So it's an alternative way to create all those things. You can come back and see it over here. And the link to service, you can see all the link to services that we created. So every time you connect to the data service, they call link to service. So you have a flat file system. You want to transform into a data warehouse table. That's a link to service, your flat file system. You can now configure as a continuous import, or time series import, or one-time import. It's a schedule that controls. But every time you connect a different data source, this is how it is. Okay, I did not enable purview. Again, as I said before, purview is to cleanse your data that nobody is sending the sensitive data over here, right? For example, social security number, it has to be masked. It shouldn't be displaying that particular format as a valid data. So 111111 is okay, but still we don't know that's a valid data or not. So some sort of validations, or someone sensitive data, pay scale, or whatever, you name it. And then you can see the triggers, the created triggers, integration runtimes. We will do everything. Okay. So how do you begin with it, right? We saw a lot of stuff. How do you begin with it? So the easiest way to begin with, you go to the home and then you click on the knowledge center. Okay. In the knowledge center, there is a lot of things, right? So you have the use sample immediately, browse gallery, right? So if you want to use sample immediately, so you click on it and then and the explore sample with the Spark. If you want to look at the Spark samples, you click on it and then you select the template you want, and then it gives you all the queries, and then you run it and learn it. Or query with the SQL. So there is only two options, right? Either Spark pool or SQL pool, or create an external tuple. So you're going to create you're going to create external. Once all the data engineering job is done, you have to create an external table so that you can give it to the Power BI. Now Power BI will connect to your external table to bring that presentation to the customer. So let's take this example for a thing, use samples, and it brings a lot of things. This is called the NYCL New York City yellow cap data of some point. Okay, it's not running anything right now. Okay, but if you please select the Spark, so you're going to this is the Python script. You take that, all you need is the pool created, right? If you don't have one, then you can go to the managed pool and create one. So I have one is created a small 3. There is a medium 3 nodes, 3 to 3 nodes. Let's take a small 3. Instead of running all, let's run one. We do not run all. We run everything. So we don't have to wait, right? So, but you got the concept. It takes that data set, right? It put the data set into in-memory, and then it trying to process. Okay, so it gives the data ready. Now, once everything is right from the in-memory, you can export to a temporary, external table. But it's going to take us some time. While we're waiting for, let's explore how we can bring our own data over here. So you can, this is out of the box. I didn't do anything. I just clicked a few clicks and I got these things over here, right? So what I'm going to show you now is a very quick samples how you can use in your lab or in your prototype, right? Such that I'm going to go back over here, this use case over here. If you look at this use case, I said I have a Cosmos DB, I have a log analytics there. Cosmos DB contains a user database, some of my social interactions. Log analytics contains, how I review the page, what I've been doing with the system, right? And the SharePoint list item contains some data about how, my interaction about it. Right? So SharePoint item contains some, say for example, company news. Okay, the company news. My boss is saying something about something good thing, but that's the center of the news. But my Cosmos DB contains who I am and how I interact with that data. Right. So there is a company news. I may say it's awesome or like or thumbs up, thumbs down. Anything. So the interaction is in the Cosmos DB, and log analytics, how I'm interacting with the page-to-page navigation that has the context of my user ID, right? But the solution that I need is to give a dashboard that gives the aggregation of this data. But if you look at it, this is very chatty, scattered, right? Some data is sitting in a Cosmos DB, not in a one container. It's sitting in a multiple container. Some data is sitting in log analytics, but that's again, that's Microsoft Log Analytics. It's sitting over there. There is another data in the SharePoint list item. So what we're going to do, this is what I think. You can process in your mind how you would do it, but this is one way of I'm thinking it. There's no way is correct or wrong, but this is my way of thinking it. I may be totally wrong, right? When it comes to the decision architecture, everybody designs it different. First thing, I decided to use for Cosmos DB Synapse Lake, so I don't have to worry about it. I go to the Cosmos DB. Let's look at a Cosmos DB over here. I picked as an example, but you can take anything you want. I'm going to go through one database, one flat file system, one internet data source. I don't think we'll have enough time to run a lot of demos here. Cosmos DB. Okay, so I pick some random database. It doesn't matter which one I pick. I pick this one, right? And then I can export this using the Data Explorer or from the data ingestions, right? So if you look at it over here, there is a data integrate, right? So I can integrate from here. I can click create pipeline, right? Copy data or link connection. I can bring it over there. That's one way from the data integration. This is the other way. So I pick it for no reason, okay? Because I want to show you how the Cosmos DB works in this notion over here. So I click on the Azure Synapse links. I just have to enable it. Once I enabled, then it will let me select the containers. As I said before, my user data sits in a user's container. My social data sits in a comments container and some other containers. You name it, whatever you want. Once I have everything, then I have option to complete this process. Then what it will do, it will create this integration over here. So if you go back to the data, you see the link to service, you see the Cosmos DB, and then if we expand it, whatever the container I linked it, it comes over here. Remember, I said your customers are interacting with the OLTP, but behind that it moves the data to a log analytics. That is how it does. So once you enable this everything, your OLTP transactions never been penalized. It works in ultra fast the way it is working, but you are now all the data now moved over to the analytics behind the scene. Okay, you come back over here, maybe a second latency, you will see all the data running over here. So if I go back over here, new SQL script and top 100 rows, and I start looking at it, I already created all those secret and everything. In this secret, you're going to copy the secret of this from here. Okay, so you go to the keys and you copy the secrets, from here, and then you put them over here, and then you create the credential in order to work, which I already did it. I ran these commands by putting the right value, so I don't have to rerun it, but I can directly run this data. But this is a test database, so I don't have a real data. I have the 3 rows, just to show you some samples. So I click on it, it runs, and it brings my 3 rows. But if I'm going to integrate some rows over there, soon it will be here. Let's go and add one more data over here in the database. I don't know we have time for the full demo, but I will try my best. Data Explorer. Items. Let's take this data. Control A-C, new item. Control A-V, new 4. User 771 as 062 maybe. And I will remove the other field because they are metadata. Right? And then I say save. I got a U4. Okay. Now, based on how we do, it will come in over here. And it's not going to be that fast, I guess, but eventually it will come in data. So we'll come back to it, but it's not going to, the key takeaway is it's not going to impact your performance, but it'll come in. But we also, very cheap running configuration over here, but you got the concept. You got the data. But now you need to expose this data to Power BI, right? But you can give this table directly. So what you can do is you can create the temporary views, okay? So because it's a Cosmos DB, so you can create a view, which I'm going to copy some script from here. Give me 1 second. So you can do something like this. Okay, so you create a view that's going to point into this, and then I'm now, when I'm in a Power BI, I can look at it. I know this data is over here, but this data is not going to come in as you trying to integrate into the Power BI. It's only going to come in a data DW, but you don't have to create another temporary table. There is 2 options. You can create another temporary table, external table, okay, or come back to the concept. So in this particular case, I put as a view, I run it, and if I look at my my view over here on the workspace and the external views, I should be having it over here. So if I do a top 100 rows, I should be seeing it. It's coming in over there. Okay. Let's see, 4 seconds. Right. Oh, these are the 4th row is here. So that's how it comes in. Right, so I'm going to use this. This is how I bring one database and transform by using the Synapse link and bring it over here. Now, let's look at the other way around. Now I go back over here. I have my I go to my resource group. I have the data lake service. I know this is not a 1.5 hour topic. We can talk like at least a day. By trying to give you a flavor of everything, then you can go and explore it yourself. So if you look at it, you come back to the resource group. Remember we create these data lakes for it, right? You can go back to the containers. And we create some containers, IoT container, FS content is the another container we created, container logs and AM request. Um, so these are the things that we created. So what is this AM logs does is I'm ingesting the data from the log analytics. Okay, but log analytics, the way that you ingest data is slightly different than how you would insert these typical comma delimited files or CSV files or JSON files. So I will come back to that before I go in there. So back to up. Containers, right? So I'm going to take these FS container only. So I have some CSV, right? I have some CSV, product CSV and sales CSV. I can transform one form into other form. I can put them in a CSV out. And this Synapse was created by, remember I said you have to give a container in order to the metadata. So those are the metadata created by their system, not by us. Okay. I have a CSV, I put it over here. Once you have the CSV, put it over here, and then assuming so you have a lot of CSV, right? In this particular example, what I would typically do, I will export this as some sort of format. It can be a JSON format or CSV format, and constantly updating a one storage location, and then I'm taking it from there, right? So, but in this case, how you import that CSV, you go back to the system, again over here. Now you can do integrate, okay, or you can go back to the home and then do ingest, okay, and then you do a copy. Here it's what I'm going to walk through three concepts together here. Run once, you want only one time, you can run once, or schedule, you can put them in a schedule. So constantly you are updating it. Tumbling window is what the log analytics kind of thing. That's a time series, right? It constantly coming in, right? So that's a tumbling window configuration you would perform. And I have a link to everything that how you can configure it. So if you go next, copy link, go next. You can just go walk through a very simple thing over here. And then you create a data connection. Okay, so this data connection can be any of these connections. This is where we talk about 90 plus connector they support. It look like more than that. I'm going to browse, look at some keywords and look for it. And I'm going to go from this, Gen2 data container. We have the file over there, and you can name it anything you want. And here it comes in the service principal, system assigned identity and the user managed identity. In this case, it's going to take the keys because we are in the same subscription. But it's a good idea to use the production environment, either it is a system assigned to managed identity or user assigned to managed identity. The difference is this is only this system can see it. User assigned to managed identity you can use across multiple software. There is a videos and talks in the past meetups, so you can look at it. Anyway, so let's move on. And I pick the subscription. In this case, I'm going to say enterprise test. I see this account, and again, same account, but I use the same container. And then either you can say platform system or link to source, right? But I created it already, so I'm going to cancel it. But if you want to check the connection, you can click on the test connection, and it will tell you what it is test or not. Discovered changes, yeah. And I already created, so you can see over here, this one is that one, and then I go. You need to ask what is the folder you want to look at it. So it knows my connection. Now I can go browse, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to say this FS content. I can pick up this CSV, and I can say the sales.csv or product.csv. You can pick anything you want, and then the format I want to go recursively. You can also select a folder and then go recursively. But in this case, there is no recursive because we put the fixed name. But if you want to go recursive, you just put a star and then say recursive. So now you have like 100 folder nested level. It calls the recursively on all the files. But in our case, we already we're pointing to the one files. Then we go next one. And the compression type, you don't need to provide any compression type. In the file format, they have a predefined format. And particular things is the delimited text because it's a CSV. And then you can leave everything default and then go to the next one. And then the destination type, right? I can pick anything I want. As I said, I want to go from that flat file to another SQL server, that flat to be another Cosmos DB, maybe the same container is another flat file. I can query it, right? So I can go look at it over here. And then I can select the behavior folder path where I want to go. I'm going to go folder container. I'm going to go CSV out, right? And then I select something and I will change the path over CSV out. I'm going to say products 2. Okay. Behavior, merge files. So, if you have already data, you're just going to merge it. You don't want to duplicate data, right? So it's going to merge files. That's the preferred behavior. And then go next. And then leave those things default. And then you give the name you want. And then next. And it's going to run it. Okay. It runs faster because it's not a huge file. So let it run. We'll go look at it in a second. Succeed, probably succeed, finish. But if you put a scheduler, it's, and then you put a recursive start, it's going to come back over there and look at it. So now I'm going back to my data. I look at my link to service. This is the link to service, right? So I'm looking at my container. So I know I use the same container, same connection string, so it's repeated over and over. But in real world scenario, you are not going to do that. I can browse from here, I can browse from here, I can browse from here. They are same because I use the same storage account, same for all the testing connections. It's not a best practice, but that's how I used it for this demo. So if I look at it over here, I have files, right? I go back to the CSV out, and then I have this file we just created, and right click, and now you can look at it, what is my top 100 rows, and then you run that query, and it tells you that 100 rows over there. Okay, so you can remove the C1, C2, C3, C4 by turning up the headers, but you got the concept. But now, okay, I see it, I analyze it, but now I cleansed all the data, and then now I want to put them in the external table, and then you can do that. Close it, now saving it. So there is a publish all, right? As you edit, it will give the option called publish all. In R, or you can select and then you rename it, and then you fix it, right? As you publish all, it's going to save it, and then you can see it under the develop. Okay. So let me stay back over here, and then this one, look at there, create an external table, right? Now I want to create an external table out of this, and I click on the external table. It gives me the path, and then I say, okay, this is how my format is, and then I go continue. And then this is the database I'm going to use, which is part of the SQL pool in a serverless pool, right? And I can give my table name. I'm going to say dbo.nashua. Okay. Using a SQL script or automatically. So let's use a script and you can see it what it is, right? So I open the script, and it brings the script for me. And then there is a location, we need to create it. And then you need to create the Nashua, it's going to import the table over here. So we're going to run all these 3 things together, right? Run it. Again, you see it automatically built the pool based on the thing that we did. It is done. There's nothing to show, right? But now it is an external table. What does that mean? Is it physically this data stored? No, that's where the polypaste come into a picture. So remember, we saw the polypaste technology is used here. So that's where it uses it. It's not going to write any data into the table. It's just a mapping. Your data still stays in that file system. So that's where when you go to the computer, it sees the mapping, it goes and takes the data from that file. So now you can bring like hundreds and thousands and millions of files, and your processor that computes that we configure, the 60 compute, from the MPP, and then the more than 60 can come for Spark Pool. They can go and take the file, process it, and bring the data together back to the controller. Okay, so if I go back to my SQL pool over here, this is the one where we did it, external table, and then I look at my Nashua, and I can look at these top 20 rows, and then I see the data back in over here. Okay, now we did the Cosmos exploration, we did the CSV, but now let me show you how you can do the app insight as a time series, right? In order to bring an app insight, you have to go back over here. Okay, you can create a pipeline, or you can go in just, and then you select the time series window, and then you go whatever the time you want to pick it up. So app inside it, I remember, based on how you configure that, you used to get like a crazy amount of data, a volume of data coming to a picture. So it's going to create hundreds and thousands and millions of files in your data lake storage, right? But you can go back and then how far you want to process it. If you've been using the login site, and you can select how far you want to go. We don't care what was happened in the past. I only care about the moving forward, and you can set the window, and then you go on. Before you come here, there's one thing that you need to do. I'm going to look at it slightly here. If you use an app inside, you need to export it. There is one prerequisite you need to complete. You have to go back to the app in log analytics workspace. App inside is a database. Again, it tells you what's going on, but log analytics is the one that you're going to export the data. You click on the data export. Now I enabled it, but you need to say the import rule and then the rule name, whatever the rule name, right? And then you say next, and then you pick the table you want to report in. These are the table requests. So I populated for request. You need all the tables or more than one table. You select the way you want it. You can run up to, I believe, 40 rules, I guess. I don't know the limit, but there is some limit how many rules you can run. But in our demo, I selected the app request and then I click next and then I complete it. Okay. Select subscription and then which storage account it is. I completed it. Excuse me. I have the data. So this step has to be complete first. Once this step is completed, then you come back over here and then select I don't know which one it is. I believe this one, I guess. Yeah. Browse. And then you can, it puts over there, then you can create some container you want to do it. So select the container. You put, as I said, I'm not going to complete it. Yeah. No, not that one. Let me look at this on the storage viewer. Containers. Oh, okay. That is all. Okay. I didn't use the system since yesterday because that was demo, so I generated the data. I did not use anything much. So I go back over here and I say the container. These files are generated, but but you can put something like the folder is going to be container2_log or something like that. Okay, and then the file loading behavior, load all files. Okay, and the recursively again, you remember when it inserts the data, if you look at it. Why I can go back from here? I don't understand that. This is how it's going to send the data. Workspace, resource, subscription ID, resource group, providers, insights, workspaces, log, year 2003, then month, 11th month, and then day 29, day 30, and then every hour. Okay, it does every hour though. You are not going to get an instant. There's some latency over here. It's not going to send to you as the data come into a log analytics workspace. So there is a 1 hour latency expected, which is better than me trying to do all the things. Okay, you got the concept. Right? This is what it is. And it's going to take the file recursively and then transform into parakeet format. Okay, that's what this rule engine is going to do. So you go next. What is the agent to operations failed? Why it's failed? Unlocked the specific resource name invalid character. Why? Close. I wonder that. No. Cancel. Cancel. Okay, next. Okay, you got to create it. I did not create it. That's why the error came in. And here we're going to say the incoming format is going to be JSON always. If you export the log analytics data, it always is JSON. If you want to see how the original data look like, you can go ahead and look at, I don't know which hour I'm going to have the data. Okay, so you can do it like this. And then you can edit God, I did download and open it. Download. It's opening. Give me a second. It's very sample data. So this is what it is. It look like, right? So if you have more data, it will be a more JSON format. I'll close it. Okay. Now go back and continue. Oh, complete compression type. You just leave it. Export as a JSON. No default ETL. Preview data. We can also do the preview over here, JSON. Okay. Okay, so I think we need to go back and then change this to a logs too. So probably we'll create a container, but you got the concept. I don't need to waste time here. App request over here, and then container. I say demo two. Yeah, so private container. Now I'm going to say demo two here. Browse. This. Browse. Demo two. Okay. Next. Oh, no. This is next. This is going to be JSON. Right. Next. Okay. Now the destination, right? So destination we're going to take back to the same Azure Data Lake storage. And then we're going to say where it's going to go. Oh, that was a source. Okay, now I got it. So this is the source. You're going to select this root folder, this one. Okay, that's a source. That's where it's going to go. And then you go next. Well, I'm not going to do that. This one. Next. Yes, here you can do a demo too, I believe. That's what the name we have it. And then you can say file name if you want to, I'll just leave it. And then the behavior is always going to merge files. And then you can say next. Okay. Now this is going to be a parquet. You want the output to be the parquet format because this comes like a crazy number of JSON processing. It's going to be a resource intensive. So you do that the transformation into a parquet format. You can leave everything else as it is and go next. It gives you a nice way to map. There is a lot of way. You map complex value to a string. You look at it. This is a complex, right? It's basically a string. It's going to put everything as a one property. I don't need these properties. I don't care all these properties. You can uncheck it, or you can add another columns or another function to call it. So there is a way to do here by simply saying. Where is it? Okay, add object, add node, and add object. So you can do anything that you want over here, and then you complete, and then the next, and it is ready, and then you can run it. I already ran it, so we are running out of time. I don't want to waste your time. So let me go back and quickly browse what we have it over here. So we're going to cancel this one. That will take some time. We're going to cancel that one. We come back over here, and then we look at the data. Again, we have these things on the linked server. We look at the linked server. We go into the container FS content. We have it over there. We already transformed all the data sitting in this container logs, right? It transformed that, and then you can right click. Now you can load from the data frame, or you can load it, or you can even create the external table. Okay, so if you look at it, that log analytics data that's stored in a JSON format now transformed into this format. Okay, you see it? It gives you all the readable format. Now you can export them into a temporary table, external table. The way that you do it, you just go here, container logs, right click, or you can do it, all the tables, right click, create an external table and do it over there. Or if you want to get in a data frame in a Spark, you can click on it and then it gives you the Spark query and then run the Spark query and then you look at it. Okay. So I think I touched the pool. I've been attaching one pool before. Let's close and then see where we are right now. We're going to close this one. Maybe this is let it be. But this one, you can close this one. Close discard changes. Close discard changes. Close. Okay, this is the explore sample data. So I believe let's run and have some data. Okay, there is a data and there is a how you visualize. This is a great power of using the Spark tool and then do it. But now if you want to add another, export to the temporary table, you technically run something like this. then run it. Now it will put. So external table from those table goes a different way. This is the in-memory data set, and then you run it. Now it will create the database table called the passenger data on the serverless database and run it. It may not run. It will have a resource issue, but you got the concept. We'll close this one, Cosmos TV, and then here we'll close this one. And again, as I said, you can click on the publish all. It will save everything else where it's saying. So we don't need this one. We looked at it, so we can close this. All right, it's all good. So if I do a publish all, it'll appear over here. You know, when you click on the publish all, if you look at it, you can see. If you click on the publish, I believe the option to change it. It is directly publishing, but you see that notebook one, my notebook one is appearing over here. So you don't lose what you've been running. So you can have it, your other developer can go and look at it. These are the query that I ran. I have it sample, how I created, product sample, how I did, how I create the created view. This is I copy pasted it. And then this is I did all the, there's a password there, so I pick it first forward. Okay. This is what I bring the app request into the table. Now I have all the external table. How do I use the Power BI, right? The same way you're going to use it. So you go here, you go to a link to resource and the new link to resource, and then you select the Power BI here. Power BI here, Power BI, and select it, which I did, and I have it over here. Cancel it. And then I click on it, cancel it. I go to the develop Power BI, and you have to log in, you have all the licensing and all those things. This is not going to violate any Power BI license. If you don't have a license, it's not going to work. So you go here, we can see it, and the new Power BI data set, and then you select which database you want. It gives you over there, and then close and refresh. No, okay. New Power BI data set, select it, download Power BI PL. I'm going to download the file for that one, right? Downloading it. Now that's my Power BI, right? So I open the file. You need to have a Power BI desktop installed. I don't know it's opening. Yeah, it should be opening somewhere. But any question while I'm waiting for? And then it'll gather all the data set. Now you can build your dashboards and publish to the cloud, and somebody else can see it. I know I went to over 6 minutes. Any question? Is everybody here? I know I went like a fast track last 30 minutes because this is the huge topic. I was thinking how to put through in 1.5 hours, but somehow I managed it. But I know I was going fast. I know.
Yeah, it's a lot of good information. Like you said, it's a huge topic. So one question I have is, so this interface you have right here, is this the Synapse Analytics Studio?
Yes. This is Synapse Analytics Studio. So you go to the Synapse and then click on the Studio, it'll bring it over there.
All right. So to the Studio, you can do all the work connecting the data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is one thing here. It needs to connect through your Entra ID. Somewhere, when I tried yesterday, it wasn't connected using the SQL authentication. So when you click on the Get Data, right? Get data, it's cached my connection, but I can click, I can select the tables, and then I can say load, and then I start building the dashboard using these visuals that I see here, right? And then publish it, and everybody is good to go. But if you have some error, you may have to clear the data by going to the data transformation. So here it's important. You want to import a data query. You do not want to import it. What happens? Because it's big data, right? You should never ever import it. You should say the direct query. Don't ever try to import it. That's going to be a disaster. So you do a direct query and then say, okay. And, every time you bring a data, it's going to talk to the source and then bring the data over here. If you have the problem of connecting it, you go to the data transform data, and then there is a little clear connection. You clear it, and then use Entra ID to connect it. In other words, use there is an option when you connect. Once you clear all the connections, I didn't clear the connections, so I didn't get it. But if I clear all the connections here, right? So if I clear all the connections, it'll give me an option to select. Now you have to come back to the selection screen. There you select, MFA. With your Entra ID, then everything will start working, and then you build. Now I have the data over here. Now I can start building. stuff. Okay, so I can start putting something over here on what I'm doing, but you got the concept. Any question, guys? Yeah, Damu, I'm not very familiar with the Fabric. I'm new to this data because we trying to build what I was demoing you, asking you over here, right? So this is what our requirement. And then I have some slide how we do differentiate OLTP, which we talked about it, and then some diagram how it works. And then there is a security. We talked about the REST. We talked about the transit, which is the DLS 1.2. We talk about the key management, customer managed, bring your own key, which is the HSM. This has to be done while creating the snaps. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. But this is a SQL server. You can do a TDE encryption over there, the data masking. If you don't want to show social security number, you can always mask it, or you can do privileged masking. Some user can see it, other user cannot. You can do that as well. When it comes to row level and column level security, those are the SQL Server concept. Answer to your question, I know it's new. Fabric is new. I don't have an answer, but if I do know, I will let you know. But I think I'll find a lot of information on the internet. But if there is a hugely different, we will have a topic next time.